Hey, hear ye, we are returning to our open session after our closed session. Welcome, everyone. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to mention what the significance of this meeting today. This is the first in-person meeting after a long COVID-19 pandemic. It's been over 14 months, 15 months or so that we've had to go online and have Zoom meetings. So first, that's the significance. Thank you to Chief Technology Officer Gil Mara and Larry Garcia and Chris Johnson and others, I'm sure, in putting this meeting together here in the auditorium of Torrance High School. A second thing that's significant for this meeting is that in addition to coming in person and being able to watch this live on YouTube, for the first time for our district, we are also going Zoom live. That way, there are 3 different methods for the public members to observe our meeting live. And thirdly, thanks again to our technology staff and cabinet and everyone who helped do this. We are now having Zoom also available for public input. I understand some other districts might have Zoom available, but not for public input. We are keeping that availability even now when we're in person. So people can either come here in person to speak, to make their oral communications, or they can go on Zoom and speak in the comfort of their own home. So thank you very much for those staff for putting this all together. All right, on to the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is there on our right-hand side. Dr. Garrison, would you lead us, please?
Right hand over your heart. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Kirsten. Item number 6, adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, I don't say raise your hand and say aye. You don't have to raise your hand anymore, but all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And motion passes. The agenda is adopted. Item number 7, report of closed session action. We have a report. The Board of Education in closed session voted as follows. 5 ayes, 0 nays to approve the following administrative appointment effective July 13th, 2021. Michelle Silverson, Elementary School Assistant Principal, assigned to Arnold Elementary School. I'll give you a brief bio of her. Michelle Silverson comes to Torrance from Manhattan Beach Unified School District, where she most recently served as a district literacy teacher on special assignment and summer school principal. During her tenure in these roles, Michelle served in various leadership roles, including grade-level lead facilitator, professional development facilitator, literacy committee, and writing workshop trainer of trainers. Prior to that time, Michelle was an elementary teacher at several sites in Manhattan Beach Unified School District from 1993 to 2017. During which time she served in additional roles, including reading specialist and BTSA support provider. Ms. Silverson earned her Bachelor of Arts from California State University, Dominguez Hills in 1993, and her Master of Arts in Educational Administration from California State University, Long Beach in 2019. We welcome Michelle to our district. Michelle, please say a few words since you're here.
I thank you, Mrs. Liu, Dr. Stowe, board members, I'm honored and humbled to become part of Torrance Unified School District. So thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to not only working with you, but working with the teachers, staff, students, and families at Arnold Elementary. And I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work as soon as I can. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. Item number 8, staff presentation and information. The interim superintendent's report. Dr. Stowe.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President Liu, members of the board. Nice to be here in person with you tonight. Just wanted to update a little bit on everything that's happening right now over the summer. I'll do an abbreviated list, but we met last week in cabinet, just kind of getting an update of everything that's going on. So nutrition services, as we did last summer and as they've done since March 16th of 2020, have been serving meals and continue to do that this summer for any student who comes in and wants to be fed. And so they continue that, as well as preparing for in-person school next year, beginning August 26th, for all of our students to be on campus and what the meal preparation needs to look like. Again, a lot of training, and I know Dr. Butler is working closely with Kathleen Cole, who has just been amazing since she began in her position. And so we're so thankful to have her. Maintenance operation wise, in addition to the regular cleaning and waxing of floors, we've moved the new desks into classrooms at the various schools. Remember, we had almost 5,500 individual student desks, and the classrooms are being arranged to make sure that spacing in the classrooms is adequate for what we anticipate the fall is going to look like. And then we've got a lot of other projects going on, repairs and the mechanized air systems and some of those things being looked at and making sure that we are following through with that. We've got the Health and Safety Committee and Operations that will be meeting later this month. We've got kind of combined those. Remember last year we had the task force, 5 different committees. We condensed that into really just health, safety, operations, because all those other responsibilities and roles really are part of the regular opening in school that we are doing. The year-end closing passed. We celebrate July 1st here and as New Year. But July means a lot of work to not just close the books from the prior year, but also set them up for the budget cycle in 21-22. So we're doing that and also implementing the LA County Office of Education BEST system for financial data. That is something that has been in the works for a couple of years, and I know Dr. Butler and his staff and Gilmar and his staff have been working very closely with the county to make sure that rolls over flawlessly. ETIS is upgrading Powerschool. We have rolling out and a lot of training going on with regard to implementation of Schoology. We have Raptor, which is our visitor management system that obviously hasn't really been extensively used for the last year and a half. Gil, I know, has a meeting tomorrow with representative from Raptor to just make sure we're up to speed training, and we have a number of new clerical staff. In addition, we're also installing the camera system at both the EMB and the district office for the buzzer, the single point of entry system. So that is being installed here in the next month or so. And then the fiber project, which is, I forget the dollar amount on that, 7 million, it was 8 million is significant, which is a tremendous upgrade for the infrastructure for our district. And we've got about 3 more months of that. So while students are not at school, it's an opportunity to really get a lot done. On the HR side, I'm happy to introduce Corey James, who's our interim senior director for human resources, and in his 6th or maybe 7th day, has just stepped in flawlessly and able to really help us out. We will be screening and interviewing this week for the chief personnel officer position. And we'll be bringing that to the board later in July for a recommendation. And then ed services. I mean, in the school sites, we've got so many trainings, hundreds of teachers and administrators going through professional development on all kinds of topics, ranging from mental health to curriculum instruction and diversity, equity, inclusion. So it's just been a lot of work in preparation, and to be able to execute and have these in-person trainings. I think I heard from a couple of teachers late last week that they were so happy that they were able to go in person, and just it has a really good feeling to it. Although a few things may still be on Zoom. And Dr. Crumpy, after I am concluded, will go through our credit recovery or our summer program and what summer school looks like. We've got credit recovery at the high schools. We've got a lot of different things happening in elementary and middle, specialized programs, as well as learning and other support classes at the elementary schools. Summer athletics and summer performing arts programs are in full swing at all of our high schools. And each of the schools are planning some sort of new student orientation at the secondary level, even for 10th graders, because 10th graders really haven't been on campus. They really are still new students, even if they were there for a couple days a week since March 25th. So everybody's doing something from during the month of August with regard to a new student orientation. And we continue to have our regular meetings with the county and the Department of Public Health. We are following the guidelines that were actually recently released with all masks required of students and staff indoors and no masks outdoors, as long as we make sure that spacing is adequate, and all those protocols are being followed. And there's some things on the board agenda tonight. One on surveillance testing that once the board approves this, we're going to dig into it and see kind of what it looks like on the implementation side for us. But we need to make sure we have that board approval in place before working with the county on the specific details, which we will bring back to you. That concludes my report.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Stowe. You guys are very busy, especially this summer. So thank you for that to all of you. The next item on the agenda is 8.2, Summer Programs 2021 presentation.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Crumpy?
Yes, thank you. And you've got the copy to follow along, and I'll kind of keep to the page numbers as we go and figure out this new some at home are looking at via Zoom. Before we turn the page and start the presentation, I just wanted to talk for a couple of minutes about summer school in general, and that the major goal of summer school is really to offset the summer slide. The slippage of student performance that happens, that we see happening from the long time, that the gap of learning from ending school in early June until we resume in late August. So that we hope by the addition of that 5 weeks of reinforcement, especially K-8, especially for our struggling learners, that will just help them to jumpstart the next school year. Because of the short length of time, we don't generally spend multiple days on the assessments. We don't do pre-assessment and post-assessment during summer school. That would really reduce the amount of time for us to reinforce the learning. So instead, what we do is we use the end of year assessments that the teachers do, and then we get the beginning of year assessments that our teachers do. And that takes them some time to get the type of specificity that we do, especially with our guided reading levels that we do. That goes up until October for them to do that. So then at that time, we, within the next, it takes a few weeks for our data management system to upload, and we'll start that data to compare, how well the summer program did, and we'll use that data to help us inform us in our planning moving forward. So that being said, if you turn to slide number 2, I do have 2 pieces of early data to just preview some of the assessment results that we typically don't share with you until the following January. Slide 2 shows our end of the year guided reading scores. from the 2019 school year and then the 2021 school year. Last year, the way we ended the year, are we coming back? Are we not coming back? We kind of eliminated that data. It was optional for teachers, and it's not really comparable. But you can see by looking at this graph that, you know, some grade levels had slight increases, some had a decline, but there was an overall decrease in the reading levels, very, very slight, from 88.5% of our students overall in K-5 meeting or exceeding the standard set for guided reading levels to 87.5%. So about a 1 point loss of that group of students that are meeting or exceeding the standards. So that was really important information to us as we're, you know, really trying to look at accelerating that learning, and then lets us have that time to really dig into that 12-13% of students, you know, starting the fall and offer them those support right from the get-go. If you turn the page to slide 3, this slide demonstrates just one piece of our reporting requirement that we gave, that we are bringing to you as a requirement to giving the alternative assessment to CAST. You may remember that we utilize guided reading levels for the English language arts assessment for grades 3, 4, and 5. And we use the MAP assessment for grades 6 through 8 and 11. And then for all 3 through 8 and 11 for mathematics. And so with this information, you see that except for 6th grade in mathematics, with a nearly met overall performance level for that group, all other grade levels met the standard for academic achievement. This is in alignment with that green color that you may be familiar with from the dashboard, which is consistent to you know, where we have been for the past few years before that the dashboard was suspended with CAST. We won't get a new status or change or color for the next couple of years, but we're able to kind of assimilate the data and see that we would be still in that level with a target area here to look at 6th grade math. So wanted to just kind of preview early data for you. Once we get the results of this data that we just received into our data management system and then onto our sites as they return in August to begin analyzing the results, we will be bringing back to you both school level data and also programmatic or demographic data results. And that will finalize our reporting requirement for using an alternative to CAST. So wanted to just kind of give you, before I move on to more summer school data, just some of the data that we use to analyze how well we're doing at this time. So moving on to slide 4, really we have our numbers are very similar with about 800 elementary and 500 middle school. Those numbers are really similar to the annual number of students pre-pandemic that we serve for summer. So even though we did invite, you may remember, we did invite more students this year. We typically only invite students who are not achieving at the standard. This year, we also included approaching the standard students. But regardless, either they're needing a break or had other plans, we still have quite a nice size of students in elementary and middle. So we didn't see a drop of what we normally see. And then moving on, and we just some photos as you know, summer school is still going on. It concludes next week, July 22nd. Just kind of flipping through on slide 5, you know, our elementary and middle school are focusing on both reading and math. And remember, this was different. So the next 2 slides kind of show you our students in their academic part of the day. They're in that academic part of the day for 2 hours. Typically, they're in academics the entire time, but this year we really wanted to focus on that social, emotional health and re-engagement and that socialization that our kids have missed. And it has been hugely successful, I will say. So, you know, on to slide 7, you see some of the enrichment programs that we have for both our elementary and our middle school, and then just some quick photos. The elementary theater program, I think this is my favorite. Under the direction of Christy Orabuena, the West High School theater teacher, this program is being taught by theater students. And so it's really a kick to see how well our elementary students are responding to our high school kids and vice versa. And hopefully we'll get some, teachers out of it. But already the students have, Christy has done a really good job of doing some surveys and getting some feedback from the students on their last day. They want more of it. They want to be able to perform for their parents. And they kind of pivoted, and on the last day they're trying to alter. Maybe we don't do the entire 2 hours of academics on the last day, because they actually want to do their performance for the rest of the students at the school. So they're trying to kind of navigate and be able to do some sort of performance on July 22nd. So really excited about how the students are responding to that. Then going on slide 9, the bricks for kids, you can kind of see the little computer, and they're doing kind of some coding robotic work and then building Lego robots and getting some STEAM work in as an elective. And then also really like this next, PS Arts on slide 10 is a nonprofit that we've worked with for the first time in Torrance, and where they're really learning some art technique and having a good time. In fact, some of the older students have asked if we could incorporate this art piece into the theater component next year, so they would be able to maybe work together. So this might be a fun challenge for us to be able to do some prop and background work. So really a lot of encouragement from here, and our social emotional learning. And there's been a lot of energy in our counseling sessions that are going on with kids. Middle school, they're less excited when we take their photos, but they've got some science labs. And we didn't get to the high school, but one of the, I think, enrichments that is going on at the high school is that some of our science teachers invited students back. There's a particular anatomy one that's coming to mind where students weren't able to get to the labs. So it's not for credit, it's optional, but they're able to come in and sign up into groups and actually do the labs and the lab dissections that they didn't get to do in the spring. Just a couple last slides. Not to forget our Newcomer Academy. We've got about over 400 students that are foreign born and in U.S. schools for 3 years or less, and they are at 3 different sites. They start their day with yoga and then go into a lot of reading and fun activities. And last, I guess there's a couple. Dr. Stowe talked a lot about all of our high school work, especially with some of the recent legislative bills about getting our seniors graduated during the pandemic. We have a 12th grade plus program that we're really hopeful that we're going to catch as many of our 12th graders that might have struggled during COVID. And in some of these enrichments that I've already talked about going on. But last but not least, on slide 15, and if you've not gotten out to see any of our little guys or gals at the Launch Preschool or any of these other sites, our extended school year special ed campuses are booming with lots and lots of kids, all the way from Launch Preschool to the advanced adult transition program. Those are the students that have graduated or completed 4 years of high school and then are in need of additional support to age 22. And so lots of programs, lots of kids doing lots of good work this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Crumpy. Great report. Does anybody have any questions about this? Dr. Mohammed?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Just a quick question on slide number 2. How do you reconcile the fact that obviously we've had learning loss and We've experienced that obviously in the past over a year. But the charts on 2 and 3 kind of suggest that we're meeting some of our indicators. So how do you reconcile that?
It was interesting. I had a few principals, elementary principals in particular, who kind of thought that this is what the data was going to look like, and they were waiting for me to get back to them. And I said, oh, did you see? This is looking quite good. And they actually had said their teachers had been reporting, and they were just waiting for my call to say yay. One of them, they've left. One of them was in the audience, and there were some unintended consequences of the things we're learning. They worked extremely hard on this. We knew, especially with the littles, the K2 students, that this reading was so important. But remember, we got kids back really early. We brought those cohorts back. We brought those struggling kids out. The intervention, they hammered, softly, but they hammered and gave as much as support to students. I know a particular 5th grade student that parents didn't want to send her back. And I think this teacher finally said, you have got to get her back. And just having that double dose, that second half of the day, was extremely important. So I really give a huge shout out to the work that our teachers did. In addition, that they have had something else that they discovered, and that we had a large group of parents who learned a lot. And those parents who had who were able to, they heard their teachers, and they were able to hear how instruction happened. And some of them were able to sit next to their students. And they think that reinforcement, having parents, especially until we were able to reopen, parents for maybe the first time really understood. I know as a high school teacher, I didn't know how to teach my kids how to read. And that we kind of taught our parents how to help reinforce and support our students. And so our teachers also give a lot of credit to those parents. And we hope that some of those kinds of benefits from the pandemic will continue. So we really are pleased that our results are strong, knowing that we still need to work on the gaps in next year.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to stress on is that the charts and the numbers, I mean, they look good. We're meeting some of our indicators, but just want to make sure that we still don't lose focus on, kids that are still struggling and that have struggled this past year.
Right. And you bring up a really good point. And because like I said, this is just a very raw early data. It's going to take us a little while to get the filters, the data management system in with our filters. We are expecting to, I mean, we hope not, but that 12 or 13%, there may have been a bigger gap. So those students that weren't able to take it, that didn't have the parents at home, that weren't able to take advantage of the intervention or come to a cohort. So even though the number may look the same, there might actually be a larger gap with the students that aren't meeting the standard. We don't know yet, but we're making sure that as soon as we can get this data and disaggregate that data, that we're going to pay a lot of attention to that.
Thank you. Those were my concerns. Thanks.
I also had a couple questions related to slides 2 and 3. I was curious, I know that we were more concerned about, I know we were more concerned about our pre-literate K through 12 or K to 2 learners, but it looks like 5th and 6th grade, and according to the data, it looks like they performed not as well, with an 8% drop for 5th grade for the guided reading, and then for the 6th grade math as well.
Yes.
I'm curious if there were hypotheses on why that's the case.
Yeah, I could hypothesize that this is where parents weren't as involved. Kids who are struggling, or and what I don't know is how close they are. So this doesn't disaggregate. Were they just one level behind? Where is that spread? But 5th and 6th grade, I think we were expecting this. We were not expecting to see some of the growth that we wound up seeing. And I think that's just a group of kids that we have to work harder next year to re-engage and be ready to go. That's also our lower, if you'd gone to any of our summer programs and you go into our entering 1st grade or entering 2nd grade, those classes are at the size that we loaded them to have 20 students in a class. as you go into the 4th and the 5th grade, they're not taking advantage of the invitation. There still were 20 students supposed to be in those classes, and there's a lot less sometimes. And so we've got to get them a different way and get them re-excited. I think we couldn't always keep their attention. The older they got, they were also better at technology and doing other things at the same time. But nonetheless, and Dr. Still mentioned it, we really are planning on that intervention piece at the school sites, that with that orientation. I know I even saw on some of the parent sites that, they're like, wait a minute, my child's going to be, a 7th grader, and they've not stepped foot on that campus. Is there going to be something for them? So we're trying to work on.
Yeah, related, I saw that. I know that we invited over 1,000 middle school students, 1,200 middle school students to the acceleration, but it looks like 490. So not that great a proportion of the students actually attended. What is our strategy for those middle school?
And so for that's actually a higher number than normal middle school, and I think I'm hopeful that if the type of enrichment that we offer and that word will get out, that they will want to come back, because we're doing additional ways of learning besides sitting into a classroom and reviewing what they already don't know. We do see this, that students, especially in middle school, don't typically just start to get behind, and they've probably been behind for a long time. And so they don't want to, and then they realize that those are the kids that are all invited into the same program. So I think being able to offer more acceleration and enrichment opportunities so kids can do things that they're interested in and getting at what their deficit is in a different way, I think is something that we're seeing through some of these enrichment classes, that we can kind of ignite their learning in a different way. They're a little bit more susceptible to that peer awareness that they're all in class because they're behind in school, and they don't like that. So they convince their parents that they can not go.
I guess my question in terms of elementary and middle school is whether we're targeting more intervention programs during the school year for our middle school students because fewer of them attended the program.
So this is the program that we really are that we hold very sacred in Torrance, is our response to intervention program, where our teachers, and then there is tutorial time within the school day. So we're not relying on them to stay after school or come early or come in the summer. Those are almost outervention programs, we call them sometimes, because you don't often get the kids that you need to get. So we do them during the school year, during the school day, and different schools have anywhere from 2 to 4 days a week where they offer that tutorial time so students can get that. And we're hoping, and there's I know some requisitions that I've been signing where towards the end of the year, and then I think some of them need a little break, and then as they prepare to come back in the summer, they're having across grade level conversations of where a 6th grade teacher saw gaps. So the 7th grade teacher, we don't want to start where they are.
Yeah.
Attentively, there has been a report of an emergency. Proceed calmly to the nearest exit and leave the building immediately. Do not use the elevator. Use the stairwell where necessary. All handicapped occupants shall use the building evacuation plan.
Oh, are we taking over stuff?
Oh, I'm just waiting.
Proceed calmly to the nearest exit and leave the building immediately. Do not use the elevator.
Just now, was it live earlier when I announced?
No.
Okay. So we just got back from a fire alarm. Everything is okay now. And Dr. Crumpy was just finishing up on her presentation on item number 8.2, summer programs. Does anybody else have any questions? about the presentation?
I'm sorry, can I speak? I know,
Yes, Vice President Han is on the phone.
aloha, everyone.
Go ahead and speak.
So Dr. Crumpy, I have a couple of questions. My first question is regarding the map numbers. I've noticed that's only for spring, but I want to ask, were the spring numbers worse than the fall? That's question number one.
So no, the spring numbers are better than the fall. In each case, the students improved between fall and spring. Some grade levels might have, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but some may have improved more than others in ELA versus MAP, but they went up in each grade level in each scenario.
And what do you attribute that to? I'm kind of curious because is it because we went back in person? Is it because of the fact that, what do you think changed that the numbers would have gone up?
Well, I think, I mean, we had the fall math and ELA map assessment in the fall was our kind of our pre-assessment. And then I think when we gave it in the spring, it's the instruction it's the learning that happened throughout the year. It's very difficult to know with our student information system to be able to disaggregate whether you were distance or blended or whether you came back or not. I don't have that information disaggregated, but I think that regardless of situations, whether families stayed home or they came back or they got additional assistance, I think everybody just powered through and worked really hard to try to give our students everything that they needed.
Then if that's the case, then I asked a question regarding the guiding reading numbers. Then how come that goes down when our MAP scores go up? How does that correlate?
Okay, so the MAP question that you asked was a pre-post of a child within a given year. And the guided reading, the second slide, was end of the year, are different groups of kids. That it was just that. So the slide 2 is showing kindergartners 2 years ago and then kindergartners this year. And what % of our kindergartners generally meet or exceed the standards moving forward. So the slide 2 was not showing pre-post data. It was showing end of year to end of year.
Thank you. So that's my second question. My last question really is this. So when I look at the summer school enrollment numbers, we had 790 elementary kids enrolled, but we invited over 2,000 kids to come. When you say that our numbers are the same pretty much as last year, the problem I have with that is that we had COVID this year. And so our numbers should have really increased because a lot of our students fell behind because we identified 2,000 elementary students who needed more assistance, correct?
We invited a different group of kids. It wasn't that it was two different sets of criteria. We normally invite students who are only on a 4-point rubric or level 1s, not meeting the standard. This year, we included additional group of students, the ones approaching the standard. And so we invited a larger group of students, knowing that we had a large subset of students, especially the 35% of students that didn't return at all. And we wanted to get at that re-engagement number. But then it's their choice whether they want to attend or not.
I understand that, but we identified these 2,000 kids that need some assistance, correct? That's why we invited these 2,000 kids to help them re-engage.
Correct.
Okay, so my question now is that only 790 showed up. I don't know what the number was for junior high school, for the middle school. I think my concern is we only had less than half the kids that we invited. So how do we anticipate to re-engage these kids if we were not able to re-engage them this summer? And that's my question. I think that's a question about intervention that was asked before. what makes we, why do we think that kids will take that extra day or that extra hour after school to reengage? I'm just trying to figure out what is our strategy to help reengage these students back to school.
Right. No, and
Yeah.
correct. And that's why, summer school, that's what as I started, summer school research is we really are not using summer school as a way to bridge a academic deficits. Because there's a summer slide, a loss of academic progress over the summer of every single student, regardless of their achievement level, we just hope to keep the learning loss as minimal as possible. So summer school is not something that we do to try to fix those academic deficits. That is done, by the classroom teacher day in and day out during the regular school year, which is why we reinforce, yes, we do these other things, after school intervention, but it's the during the school tier 2 intervention and tier 3 intervention that happens during the school day is the strategy that we are using to be able to get at those students. At the elementary level, our teachers, different grade levels do it a little bit differently throughout the day and throughout the week. At the middle school and high school level, tier 2, they do it during tutorial time. If students need even more assistance from that, they may be provided with actually a class period of intervention. I know that Dr. Egan has been working with middle school principals, very recently, that part of our extended learning opportunity or AB 86 monies went to provide some additional sections for those kids in middle school next year, so that they could be in an intervention class, but if they didn't need it anymore, they could go into their elective, so that they weren't missing out on an elective and still had those enrichment opportunities as well. So a lot of plans on trying to maximize their master schedule design so that the students, whether they're tier 2, meaning they need support with what they're currently learning, and they do that during tutorial time within the school day, not outside of the school day, or during tier 3, which means that they need maybe a period of instruction. They may come in for a 0 period. They may stay for a period 7, assigned for a longer day, but most of them do it during the school day in a class period that they're scheduled into.
Well, because thank you for that information. I think that brings clarity to me, because I always thought summer school was to help get some of that loss back. But what you're implying is summer school really is to stop the slide. So it's not to help the kids progress, it's just to stop the regression of the education, correct? That's what I'm hearing from you.
No, you're absolutely
right. And the reason why I'm saying this, I'm sorry, the reason why I'm saying this is because of the fact, this is why at the end of the year, this is why I wanted students to come back, so that they can have that additional learning opportunity in person. I think my assumption all along was that the summer school was going to be used to help students who have lost, to get some of that loss back. But I guess I was incorrect in that thinking.
But this summer, we invited more students to try to address other needs, even students maybe that didn't have necessarily academic, but maybe some social emotional issues, from isolation or whatever that occurred during the pandemic. So there was a wider net cast for students to be able to come to summer school, not just those that we wanted to eliminate or reduce. Hopefully that summer slide through our very targeted programs, but also to re-engage more students, and the other activities that schools are going to do at the beginning of or prior to the beginning of the school year in August, and some of the onboarding, if you will, of some of the new students is also meant to address those more connection issues.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments?
That I'd like to see the theater program one at times, what they come up with. That looks really exciting.
Yeah, it does. That's been the most fun thing to watch this summer.
Thank you again, Dr. Krempe, for your presentation. We're now on to item number 9, oral communications for unscheduled hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make an oral communication? I don't think so. I didn't receive any cards. Right? And Chief Technology Officer Mara, are there any oral communications submitted online? Thank you, Chief. Item number 10, discussion and action items. There are none, so I will go ahead and move on to item number 11, consent agenda. From approval of the consent agenda as a whole, all matters listed on the consent agenda, that is number 12, general functions consent through 18, administrative services bond consent, are considered to be routine and will be enacted with one vote. There is no discussion, and there's no discussion of consent calendar items unless members of the governing board, public, or staff request that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Does anyone want to pull any of the agenda items out of consent?
Yes, 15.8 and 17.8 and 17.11.
I got you 3. Anybody else? You look like you were going to speak, so no?
I
Okay.
will move that we approve items 12 through 15.7, 15.9 through 17.7, 17.9 through 17.10, and 17.12 through 18.
We don't need a roll call, correct? Or,
No.
okay. Any further discussion? You sure? We don't need a roll call?
You have a majority in person?
Okay, well, all in favor, say
Happy
aye.
to do that if you'd like.
Aye.
Aye. Motion for
Aye.
those items are passed. Thank you. Item number 15.8, Member Park.
Yes, so this is for approval for Torrance Unified School District to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Torrance Police Department Juvenile Diversion Program. I was kind of curious how long this program has been a part of the district, and just in light of things that are, I know that there was a case in Pasco County in Florida with information sharing between the school district and law enforcement, and ethical issues that may have arisen there. And so just kind of curious with our agreement, what this program is, how long it's been a part of the district, and what sort of data sharing takes place.
Great. So this is in its 29th year, juvenile diversion that has worked with the youth, the community, as well as the school district. It actually provides us our pediatric emergency response, or our PET team, in ahead of us, working with the Department of Mental Health, and does a lot of our provides support in our community for a lot of mental health. So I think it's actually a celebration of how the police department is continuing to ensure that there's mental health experts as part of the police department, so the counseling and appropriate services for students can be provided. And it's not a data sharing, it's more of a support services that happen as wraparound services. Now, many of them may happen without our knowledge. There may be things throughout other community organizations or the police department themselves, where in lieu of something, they go into different, counseling programs. We predominantly use them as part of our Building Bridges Collaborative for their mental health services and counseling for our students.
That's great. And I just want to say that I appreciate all of the different wraparound services that are being provided to the students through all of the different agreements. I think it's Really great. For 17.8 to ratify agreement between Torrance Unified School District and RICO for ransomware security software solution. I believe this would be for Chief Technology Officer Mara. I was just kind of curious, what is the risk to districts with ransomware, and how do we justify the cost of the 63,000? I guess, what is the cost benefit analysis? How many ransomware attacks have we seen across the nation in the past couple of years, and what is usually the cost to the district for if they do suffer a ransomware attack?
Yeah, I can speak even anecdotally to one that's going on right now to a neighbor of ours over at Centinela Valley School District, where they've been hit and they've been down for almost 3 weeks and are negotiating with the ransom folks. So their legal team is working on deciding whether or not to pay the ransom itself, because according to what I've heard from some of my colleagues, I haven't talked to my colleague there yet, he's busy, that they've lost everything. They have no data. And their Powerschool is down, their email has been down for a few weeks. And it's really difficult to put a monetary cost to that disruption of service. For us, if we lost everything, I don't know what we would what we would do. We have several mechanisms in place to prevent it. Ransom Care, this is a Danish company. This is our last line of defense for this happening to us. And you also know from hearing on the news all the big ones that happen, from meat packing plants to the pipeline, on and on and on. But this happens almost every day now in the public sector, especially here in K-12. As they know, we carry insurance. We have cybersecurity insurance and our own insurance company with Alliant. They will pay out up to $2 million in Bitcoin if they had to, if that was the ransom for us. This is, it keeps us all up at night. At $63,000, I think it's a great investment. And like I said, it's a last line of defense. We have already invested in Mimecast, and that's the software that monitors our email system to check for bad links that will take you out to a malformed site where something will drop into your network and begin encrypting your files and your servers. So I can get more data as to how many hits there are. There are a lot of websites, of course, that a lot of data out there that that enumerate these instances that are happening everywhere. What we're learning a lot, though, is that whether it's a municipality, a city, or a school district, they're trying to keep it on the down low a little bit. We know we're targets now, right? It used to be private industry where they thought that's where the big pockets were. Really, the hackers just kind of want to get in, get their couple $100,000, $300,000, whatever the ransom may be, and then they move on to another victim. So we, off the top of my head, I know 4 school districts and my colleagues that have already gone through this, and it's a difficult situation. And, we just hope for the best for Centinela Valley and hope they come back online. Same thing happened over at Wiseburn. Their Powerschool servers were encrypted and they couldn't get that back. And San Bernardino School District, my buddy over there, 2 months into the job, losing 100 servers to ransomware. So it's almost as if it feels like when versus if. So this is with this software, we saw a demonstration of it. It's pretty incredible what it'll do. There's several very complex algorithms and scripts that run on the side of our servers. So it's monitoring our file shares. And the moment it finds, so we're going to baseline all the network activity for 2 weeks. And once it's turned on, a kill switch will be enabled so that once it sees unusual activity in rapid encryption of files, it'll immediately disable the device where it's happening and disable the user account. So that'll do that. It'll do that on network shares and even our Google Cloud shares. We started the process July 1st. That's why it's a ratify, because Dr. Butler signed it then, because we wanted to get it going. And today we did the full configuration with the network team between our engineers and their engineers. So we're throwing everything at it. I mean, to just keep this from happening to us. So.
Yeah, and I just like to, I think from a professional perspective as well, I think it's great that TUSD is really looking at a multi-pronged solution to making sure as increasingly our services and information is stored digitally, that we are investing in not only these services, but also in training our personnel to know how to have practice proper cyber hygiene and our students as well. So,
right, and as you know, you approved a contract a few weeks ago for KnowBe4 for the training and the simulated phishing attacks. More will be coming, so you won't know it's coming, but I'll know whether or not you clicked, and you shouldn't have. So naughty, you'll be provided some training. We'll know who you are. So, of course, that's put everyone on edge now. It seems like I get an email from everyone like, is this real? Is this real? Is this real? So, but that's good. We're being vigilant, right? A lot of people don't think I'm me anymore. Is this really you? They email me back. Is this really you? It's really me. So,
I sent you an email today going, I'm getting a warning signal, but I don't see, is this real?
yeah. And then Dr. Gerson emailed me was it today?
It was today.
Yeah. Is this really real? Okay. So.
I wanted to thank you because we've had a lot of conversations about this. I love this new technology that you're discussing. How we've discussed, from how much data would we lose so that we wouldn't have to pay a ransom, and how you rotate the backups and the locations. And you've done such a good job of putting so many different layers of protection. So I want to commend you and your department and thank you for all of your work to try and protect us so that we'll never have to actually pay a ransom.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah, I've got a really smart team, and we go through this all the time, especially when one shows up in the news. It's like, oh my gosh, you guys, what do we do so we don't have to be on the news? But we're trying our best. There's no 100% guarantee. You know that. I couldn't say it'll never happen to us, but everything we can do, we're trying. And this technology is really unique. We hadn't seen anything like it. We were looking for competitors, and they said they have this secret sauce, and we saw it in action, and they've got customers lining up at their door to give it a shot. And then this is a 1-year contract. We'll see how it goes for this first year, and we may renew. So,
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you again, Chief, for being proactive in protecting our software. Item number 17.11, Member Park.
Yes, this is to approve a contract with the County of Los Angeles Department of Public Health and the Los Angeles County Office of Education for COVID-19 testing from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. And I was just curious, I understand this is in preliminary stages, so we don't have fully ironed out who will have access to this testing or what it entails for the district in terms of our budget or the process by which we may be reimbursed for this testing. So I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about where our thinking or direction is there.
Certainly, thank you. So LACO received a grant from the LA County Department of Public Health as part of a grant from the CDC. So it rolls all the way back up to the American Rescue Plan to do more testing in schools. So that was a determination by the Biden administration. This should be in the American Rescue Plan, something that's useful for getting more kids back to school in the fall. Our particular grant award is $3.7 million towards testing. And what we do know is there's going to be some kind of testing in fall. We can't tell you at the moment, will the state of California require surveillance testing? I think it's a pretty clear bet at the moment that athletics testing will be there in full force in the fall. So we know that this is on the horizon. So it seems silly to say, let's not go for any of the grant. Let's get the grant in place. Let's sign the contract for it so that we're eligible to receive reimbursement. And now let's see what the testing program looks like. So for example, one nice thing about this grant is it covers our time for planning. Well, we spend a heck of a lot of time thinking about the planning for testing and what it's going to look like this fall. So at least I can now charge some of my hours towards this grant. And I'm not doing it as a way of getting back money that way. It's a recognition by CDC all the way down that there's a lot of effort that goes into making sure that a testing program is in place. And especially when you think about by fall, we still won't have vaccinations for under age 12. We know that not everyone 12 to 18 is getting it. We know that not all staff members did receive the vaccinations. So what is the guidance from California DPH? We know more is coming. They just released a chunk today. I haven't had a chance yet to read it to see where it goes with testing, but I know that that will also be modified and enhanced over the rest of the summer. So our bottom line is let's get the planning in place to at least do athletics testing. Let's look at what surveillance testing could be for us in terms of both the benefits to it and how to implement it, and then come back to the board and say, here's what we're thinking about. We know athletics is going forward. Here's what we would suggest for testing potentially staff students, what the frequency would look like, and then have your decision for what we actually implement going forward. But what's nice is literally the 2 or 3 minutes I've talked about this right now, I can charge off.
Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion to approve these three?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve items 15.8, 17.8, and 17.11.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We are now done with the consent calendar. Item number 19, as usual, is information on the board calendar and the Williams reporting requirements. Item number 20, comments from members of the Board of Education. 20.1, Vice President Han as the board representative to the Southern California Regional Occupational Center. Do you have a report?
We have our SOC meeting that we're meeting next week.
I couldn't hear you. Can you say that again?
We have a board meeting. We have next week.
Okay, you have it next week. Gotcha.
Did you hear me? Oh,
Yes, we gotcha.
thank you.
Thank you. Item number 20.2, CSBA delegate report. Dr. Gerson.
I have nothing to report this week.
Okay, 20.3, other comments from the board. Dr. Mohammed, do you have anything?
Thank you, President Liu. I just like to welcome everybody. It's just so great to see all of you in person. So I'm just glad to be here and just with my fellow colleagues, with you. So thank you so much.
That's right. This is your first in-person board meeting, and for also Member Park.
Very exciting.
Member Park, do you have any oral communications?
Just want to echo President Liu's comments, thanking everyone who was involved in making this meeting happen. Really, I know it was a ton of work behind the scenes, and besides the fire alarm, which we could not have predicted, went off without a hitch. So thank you so much.
Okay, Clerk Gerson. Dr. Gerson.
Thank you, Mrs. Liu. I would like to echo what everyone said. It is so nice to be back in person and feel like real people, like we're really conducting business. Thank you. I know the camera was facing toward one person in the audience and everyone else was smart and sat on the other side, but thank you for being here and coming and being here with us. We appreciate you too. On the data that was presented today, we were really good about being critical and looking past the numbers and delving down deep, but I do want to take the time to celebrate what we saw and commend all of the teachers and all of the parents who did this hard work. I know previously, I had mentioned how important, especially third grade is for reading, and to see this much year-over-year improvement that is excellent, because that is a key data point for high school graduation, and to see that kind of improvement is commendable. And the overall, I mean, the one point is error. It's within error. So the fact that overall our district fared this well, that we were able to weather over a year of pandemic, and that we are still where we were. And yes, we don't know how much of a difference for the remaining group that didn't meet standard, but it's the same percentage of students. And so the workload of the student load that we have to contend with is not bigger. And so this is a doable task, whatever data we discover. And so I just want to take the time to commend everyone, teachers and parents and paras and everyone who participated in this. We did really well in enduring the pandemic, and that bodes really well for when we're all back next year. So thank you everyone for the hard work.
Thank you, Dr. Gerson. Vice President Han, do you have any oral communications you would like to share with the public? I think the signal is not working, so I'm going to assume you don't have any. Okay. I think VP Han said nothing. Thank you.
So much for everyone for getting on Zoom today, all your hard work today.
Oh, we got that. That's great. Thank you. Yes, and again, thank you to Chief Larry, Chris, and all of you for making this in-person meeting possible. I know that you guys spent a lot of time and effort putting this together to make it possible to be done. And from now till at least when school starts, we can go ahead and hold this board meeting here at Torrance High School auditorium so that you don't have to put everything back together and take everything apart again. All right, now it is the usual announcement for some anniversaries. The following classified employees have completed 10 years of accredited service and are eligible for an anniversary increment on the date listed below. Congratulations to Alejandro de Leon, who is the custodian in North High School. For 15 years of accredited service, we have Tiffany Abraham, who is a paraeducator T2 at Launch Preschool. We also have Eduardo Gonzalez, who is a systems support specialist, Educational Technology and Information Services Department. Thank you. Thank you for your public service. And now we'll be calling for, we're gonna have our next meeting on July 22nd as a special meeting to approve a softball field construction contract. In addition, we are also going to be considering the appointment of the superintendent for Torrance Unified School District. And tonight we will be adjourning in the memory of retired district electrician Carl Warner. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. Moved and seconded. No more fire alarms. All in favor? Say aye and raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Good night, everyone.